Hello, and welcome to our first true crime video.
True crime.
Where we're just going to sit and talk about a true crime case. The first one, we're going to be talking about Josh and Susan Powell. This case is, I think, one of the most interesting ones I've ever researched. And it just so happens that some of it takes place in the town I grew up in. So there's that. So many twists. All right, let's get into it. Okay, we're also going to be playing a game because I don't know what to do with my hands. So yeah.
Okay, we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
You're going down.
All right, so we're going to start with a little background on Josh Powell. I'm going to go first here.
You cool cats and kittens.
Okay, so Josh was raised by his mother, Terry, and his father, Stephen. He was one of 5. That's so loud and scratchy. He was one of siblings.
Pretty big family.
Really is. They were religious.
Could not imagine having 5 kids. Were they Mormon?
They were part of the LSD.
Judas.
No, LDS. I always get so confused. LSD. I always say LSD. It's LDS.
They were LED.
Latter-day Saints.
Very bright.
So yes, Mormon. Yeah. So he was one of 5 siblings. Stephen and Terry really didn't get along. They never had the best relationship. They just fought a lot. And they weren't like abusive toward their kids. Well, Terry wasn't. Stephen was just kind of a little freak, and he would...
Strong word.
He would show, like...
Stephen was just kind of a little freak.
He would show porn to his kids. Well, he would regularly show porn to, like, his boys, and then his sister, Josh's sister, Jennifer, said that, one time she remembers it was like openly watching porn, like in the car while they were by themselves. So yeah, he was a freak, and that led to Stephen and Terry getting a divorce when Josh was 16. When he was a teenager, he killed some of his sister's gerbils, which obviously is the first sign. How could you kill
gerbils?
A little animal, first of all?
Dang.
I couldn't even imagine.
I don't know. Theo Vaughn used to sell hamsters.
Sell hamsters?
Yeah.
Like black market hamsters?
I don't know if they were black market or what kind of market he got them on, but yeah, look it up.
Alright, anyways. Yeah, Josh didn't like gerbils, and he killed them, and one time he even threatened his mom with a butcher knife. So he had some problems. It's your turn, by the way.
Just giving you a head start.
Anyways, fast forward, Josh meets Susan at a social gathering for their church. They were both part of the same church, and they met in Tacoma, actually. Yeah, super close. It's so weird because when you listen to, like, interviews with him, he just talks about things that, like, I know exactly where it is. And, like, some videos, he's in the Fred Meyer parking lot where... I've been going since I was a child. It's just so weird because this was like a high profile.
Got my first Nike socks from that Fred Meyer.
Wow.
Fun fact.
Wow.
Yeah.
This one is
Ankle socks.
really
Dad
close to
wasn't happy with me.
Really close to home, honestly.
He's not happy with me.
So anyways, Josh meets Susan. He's 22. She's 18. They met at a church gathering, and they dated for a little while, and they finally got married in 2001. It's actually not a very long engagement because, I mean, they met in like 2000, I think. So they got married within like a year. Pretty quick. After they got married, they lived with Josh's dad, Stephen, in Puyallup for a while. They lived with him for about 2 years.
Fun fact, Puyallup, most people will read it and pronounce it wrong. And it's not Puyallup, right?
Yeah, Puyallup. They lived with Stephen for a while, but they ended up moving to Utah because Susan wasn't comfortable around Stephen at all because he would like always hit on her and he was just inappropriate with her. And he actually like tried to tell her that he was in love with her. And so after that, they were just like, we need to get away. Well, Susan wanted to get away. Josh kind of like stuck up for his dad and was like, oh yeah, that's just how he is. He just kind of brushed it off. But
his dad said he was in love with his wife?
Yeah.
He didn't whoop his dad's ass?
Yeah, so, I mean...
Sorry, Dad.
That just kind of shows what kind of family they are.
That's crazy, though.
Yeah.
What?
He would always flirt with her, so she was like, yeah, and yeah, we just need to get away. So they moved to Utah. Once they were in Utah, they ended up having 2 kids, Charlie and Braden.
Charlie. Sorry.
Don't read my notes.
I wasn't. I am now. Whoa.
After they...
Spoiler alert.
After they had kids, their marriage just kind of started to fall apart. They started to fight a lot because Josh started to get super controlling, and he wouldn't like let her do anything, go anywhere except for work, and he would try and control all the finances, even though Susan was the one who made all the money. It got really bad, and they just started to fight all the time. So Susan started to like talk to her friends about it because she just didn't really know what to do. And one of her friends told her that she should go see a
therapist,
a divorce lawyer. So she did, and the divorce lawyer told her that she should start to document everything, like all their assets and everything, and like start to document things that he said to her. So
document everything? That's a lot of work.
Yeah, so she got
what a pain in the ass.
She got a video camera and like just started to go around the house and just like record everything of value and just like...
What year?
I don't know, 2000s?
Like early 2000s? I'm just trying to picture the camera.
Oh yeah, it was bad quality. It's like a camcorder.
No, this is pre-camera phones.
Yeah.
For any of you like youngins out there.
She went around with like a camcorder.
I mean, you had to go way out of your way if you wanted to take a video back then. I've always had cameras since I was a little kid, but you had to have this big old clunky camera and it had tapes. It wasn't digital. You couldn't just upload it onto the internet.
Yeah.
It was a process. No Wi-Fi.
Yeah, so in these videos, she would like show Josh's big computer that he had and just like spent a ton of money on, even though he like told her what she could spend money on. And it just kind of sounded like she was like kind of bitter about it, I guess. I mean, he would get mad at her for buying groceries. So this is like...
She wasn't out there getting no red bottoms.
No way.
No Louis V.
So on December 6th, 2009, Susan asked one of her friends, Giovanna, to come over to the house to help her with her knitting. Giovanna said that night that she noticed Josh was acting weird, and he never was really known to do anything around the house, like cook or clean or anything. But that night, he like came into the room that they were in and offered to like make dinner for everybody. So she just thought that was kind of weird. But Josh went into the kitchen and he called his dad to get like a pancake recipe. And then
pancake recipe?
Yeah, for dinner.
Not on the back of a pancake box?
Anyways, he made pancakes for everyone, but it was like weird because the way he did it was like he would make a plate and bring it out to Susan, and then he would go back in the kitchen and make more and then bring it out to Giovanna. So like he was doing it all separately.
They're suspicious?
No, I mean, she just noticed that it was kind of weird. Yeah, he was just like giving them their plates at different times, which is like not how you would normally do it. Normally you just do it all at the same time. That and the fact that he like never cooked, so it was just strange. Around 5 p.m. that night, Susan started to not feel good, and Josh was like kind of telling her it was like time for her to go. And Susan like went upstairs to go take a nap or go to bed or whatever. But when Giovanna got in her car, she saw that Josh loaded the boys up into their car and like sped off before she even put her seatbelt on. So it was just strange. The next morning on...
Click it or ticket. That's what I always say.
The next morning on December 7th, which is my mom's birthday.
Nice.
The boys should have been dropped off at daycare like they would have been on a Monday morning, but Susan never showed up, which isn't like her. It's not like her to just not show up and not call.
Reliable.
So the daycare worker got kind of worried because they were in the middle of a snowstorm, so she thought that maybe they got in a car accident or something, and she called both Josh and Susan. Nobody answered. So then she called the emergency contact, which was Terry, Josh's mom. And that obviously worried her because, Monday they have to work and the boys would have been dropped off at daycare and they haven't heard from anyone. So Terry starts to worry and she calls Jennifer, which is Josh's sister. They start freaking out and they kind of come to a conclusion, like, what if there's like a gas leak in the house, like a carbon monoxide leak or something? And they were like all passed out inside because it just wasn't like them to not answer the phone.
Do they have like a gas stove or something? I don't
know. I'm guessing it's like a normal thing.
They must. I mean, if it was an older house,
yeah,
there's a good chance it was heated with gas or propane.
Yeah. So that was their conclusion. They called the cops, and thank goodness the cops actually showed up because normally it's like 24 hours. If there's a missing person, you have to wait 24 hours to report it before they even do anything.
Wow. Terrible rule.
So they actually showed up at the house. Nobody could get a hold of Josh still. So Terry and Jennifer gave the cops permission to break a window to get inside to see if they were in there. And they weren't, but they did find 2 box fans.
Do you know how they broke the window?
Doesn't matter.
Just trying to paint a picture here.
No, like, they broke a window.
An elbow with a rock with a baton. Just saying. These are details people want to know.
No, it isn't.
The guys do.
They broke the window.
Karate chopped
to get inside, and they didn't see anything, but they found, they didn't see anybody. They found 2 box fans that were on and pointed toward the same, like, spot on the carpet, which is weird. Susan's purse, keys, everything was inside the house. The car was gone. So it just looked weird.
So there's obviously some sort of wet spot on the carpet or something. Mm-hmm. Clean something up.
Yeah.
Did they have pets?
No. There was no signs of like a struggle or anything. The only weird thing was like all Susan's stuff there and the fans. So Josh, everyone's there at the house like waiting for anyone to come home, and Josh finally gets back with just the 2 kids and no Susan. He thought that she was at work, but he had the only car, and he told everybody that he took his 2 kids, his 4 and 2-year-old, camping just spontaneously in the middle of the night at like midnight. He just got up, took them camping. Which obviously, like, it's the middle of the winter. The boys...
November or something?
It was December.
December?
It was the middle of a snowstorm, and the kids are 4 and 2 years old. So obviously you don't do that.
And it was snowing?
Yeah, they were in the middle of a snowstorm. So...
He definitely don't camp in the middle of a snowstorm, let alone at midnight.
His family does say that he did things like that all the time, that he just, like, spontaneously did things like that, but...
Did he have any drug problems?
Still, no. People that knew Susan knew that she would never let him take the kids in the middle of the night like that, especially like during winter. It's freezing out. So the story was already just kind of weird and suspicious.
Crazy. I couldn't even imagine. It's bad enough driving in the snow, especially around here. If you're in the deep woods too.
He has a minivan, so it's not like... Yeah.
So picture an old 1995 caravan.
Yeah, basically.
Red Rocket.
So at that point, they brought Josh in for questioning, and he insisted on bringing the kids. And during the interview, he kind of used the kids as like a distraction to distract him from like the questions.
Like, hey, stop doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
And he didn't really seem concerned at all. So the cops asked if they could search his van, and he gave them permission to do that. They found camping gear, a tarp, a shovel, but then in the center console they found a pink Razor cell phone, which obviously that's not his because it's pink. And why does he have a woman's cell phone? So
Pink Razors.
I used to have one of those. I loved it.
Ooh.
That was honestly one of my favorite phones.
Yeah, I didn't have one. My friend had one though, Razor.
Yeah.
Shout out to
They're
Trevor.
pretty sweet.
You know
Anyways,
who you are.
they looked at the phone and they found a voicemail. The voicemail was from Josh to Susan. And it was basically just saying, like, I messed up. I thought it was Sunday and not Monday. And that was just, like, him trying to cover his tracks because he didn't show up to work on Monday. So it was weird. Like, why would you go camping?
Didn't know what day it was?
He said he didn't know that it was Sunday.
And we don't know of a, like, active drug problem?
Yeah.
I wonder if he was doing drugs secretly.
I don't think so. I think he's just weird. They really didn't have any evidence to make an arrest at that point. They let him go. They said that was kind of a mistake because it allowed him to like go home and burn a bunch of evidence. Yeah. So they found like a bunch of burnt objects. Later on, they found a bunch of burnt objects that they still don't really know like what it was because they were so burnt.
Because who just burns random objects? Unless you're a little kid and you're given a lighter and you shouldn't have one, you're not just burning random crap.
Yeah, and also the neighbor said that they saw him outside, like, scrubbing his van inside and out. And, like, if your wife's missing, you're not going to be outside cleaning your car.
Yeah, first of all. Second of all, no one deep cleans a minivan.
Yeah.
Please.
Come on, Josh.
Please.
Come on.
No one deep
At
cleans
least
a
go in the
minivan.
garage if you're going to be sketchy like that, okay?
They're not meant to be cleaned.
The neighbors also saw him putting a bunch of bags, like, in the garbage. So he was just cleaning it out, which is just strange. It's weird timing. The next day, his family is all at the house because obviously Susan's still missing and they're worried about it, so they're just there for him. Jennifer, his sister, said that he was just acting really weird and he was running around the house just trying to clean everything up and, like, wash towels, and he just wasn't being normal. So he had to go back to the police station for an interview, and finally they just had to be like, you have to go, like, stop cleaning, you have to go.
Her parents?
His sister and mom, because they're the only ones that are in Utah at that point.
And they were waiting for him at the station?
Yeah. He had to go be questioned because they still had more questions, obviously. They didn't get much from him the first time because he had the kids with him.
If that was going on, you wouldn't be just cleaning. You'd be freaking out.
Yeah. In his interview, I actually watched this entire 3-hour interview. Yeah, it's pretty crazy because the first thing he says when he walks in, he, like, asks the cop.
3 hours? That's a Joe Rogan podcast.
He asks the cop if he has his camera, like, ready to record this interview. And he also is really pushing to get an attorney, which I get, you know. If you're being questioned, you probably want to have an attorney, but also at the same time, like, you want to be answering questions. You don't want to put it off because your wife
we've seen so many shows to know you have to get an attorney.
Dr. Phil says you should always get an attorney.
I don't care how innocent you are. If they think you're guilty.
Right. But the cop was, like, trying to just, like, he's like, I'm not going to go through that, you know, like, he's just trying to put off this attorney thing. But for, like, 20 minutes, the first 20 minutes, that's all he's saying. He's just, like, arguing that he needs to have an attorney present. Smart, I guess.
Yeah, there's nothing really suspicious about that. I mean, it sounds suspicious.
Yeah, so also...
But it shouldn't sound suspicious.
Also, when Josh walked in, he had, like, a bunch of scratches and stuff on his hands, and the cop just kind of, like, looked at it. Yeah, he, like, looked at it, and Josh really wouldn't let that go. He was like, you're saying I have defensive wounds on my hands. He said defensive wounds, and the cop never said that. But Josh said that. He said, you're saying I have defensive wounds on my hands.
And all he did was just point him out.
Yeah, and he's like, all I'm doing is just pointing out.
Just ask him what happened.
I just have to, that's just protocol.
I didn't see a dog, so.
Yeah. But he's clearly faking being upset. Like, on the camera, you can see the cop walks out and Josh is like sniffling. He's fake sniffling, like he's being super obvious. Yeah, and can see like when the cop is gone, he's in the room by himself and he's just like this and he's like whispering to himself like, where did she go? And he's just being really fake, and the sniffling is like super annoying because it just gets annoying. He's trying to like
when you cry.
He's trying to like be upset, but you can tell he's really not. You can tell it's just fake. So he's just not helpful at all. He was answering the questions, but he wasn't like being helpful. The cop asked him where he worked, and he told him he was a real estate agent. He had his business, and he went into a lot of detail like about his work. But he wouldn't go into any detail about Susan or like what she liked to do or things like that. He would go into detail about like really dumb things, like the pancake thing. He was telling the story about like how he made them pancakes, and he said that he put cream cheese in them. Like, he was just giving details about things that really didn't matter, and he wasn't talking
Which
about
is
Susan.
a typical sign of someone who's lying. That says, I can't remember what day of the week it is, but I can tell you exactly how I made these crappy pancakes.
Right. So he's just being really deflective, really. And he's just not... Anything that they asked about, like, that weekend, he's like, well, I don't remember. He said that they had a babysitter come over, and he didn't remember why the babysitter was over or, like, what they were doing. He just said he didn't remember.
Why he got the sitter? Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So he was just being weird. While Josh was being interviewed, they were also doing an interview with Charlie, which was the oldest son. He's 4 years old. They really couldn't get much out of Charlie because his answers were just really confusing. The only thing that he said was that his mom did go on the camping trip with them and that she stayed there. Like, she stayed where the crystals are, is what he said, which is crazy because in Utah they have like these caves where you can go and see crystals. So they thought, maybe her body's there. Because they're pretty sure at this point that Josh did something to her. They don't think that she's alive at this point.
Those caves are really cool, too. I think I looked them up the last time that we talked about it.
Yeah. So that's really the only thing that they got from him, which is pretty significant. But again, he was only 4 and his answers were everywhere, so they couldn't really, take it seriously.
But at the same time, you can't take it for nothing.
Yeah. After this interview, again, they're pretty sure that he did something, but they decide not to arrest him because they want to see if he will lead them to where Susan's body is. So while he's being interviewed, they put a GPS tracker on his car. Unfortunately, he was on to them. Yeah, he was on to them, and he left the police station and went straight to the airport and rented a car.
I wonder if it was like a big clunky GPS thing, like
I don't know.
The early 2000s. It's like a brick.
Yeah, probably. He probably saw it. Like, he probably knew.
It was probably super obvious.
He was pretty smart. He was also a computer programmer, so he wasn't, like, dumb. He probably, like, searched his car and found the GPS tracker and then decided that he needed to get a rental car.
Oof. Could you imagine how scary that would be as a criminal?
He got this rental car, and they don't know where he went because the GPS tracker was on his car, not the rental. But when he returned the rental, he put an additional 807 miles on this rental car. And they just don't know where he went.
How long did he have it again?
18 hours. He disappeared. Nobody knew where he was, and then...
So he was getting rid of a body? Is that what we're thinking?
I guess. I mean, I don't know.
807 miles? That's far.
Yeah, where else would you go?
That's like... From here, I mean... Where'd he go? Oregon?
I don't know.
If he went across the border, they would know that.
I don't know. No one knows.
I'm pretty sure,
Anyway.
Especially in a rental.
Yeah. Well, the police, during their investigation, they found the videotapes that Susan was keeping of, like, their assets, like the lawyer had told her to do. They also found at her work, she worked for a bank, so she had a safety deposit box at her work. And in that safety deposit box, they found letters that Susan wrote, like kind of just documenting everything. She wrote that Josh told her that if she tried to leave him, that she would never see her kids again, and just like threats like that. They also found like a will, and it said, quote, "If I die, it may not be an accident, even if it looks like one." It's pretty damning, Josh. She also talked about a $1 million life insurance policy that Josh recently took out on for her. And Susan...
For life insurance?
Yeah. Susan's family and friends were really getting frustrated because they thought that the cops had enough at this point to arrest him, but the district attorney said that they wouldn't press charges against him unless they had a body, or unless 12 months had passed and nobody had seen her yet. So they were just kind of making it hard for the cops to really do anything. Days after Susan disappeared, Josh closed their bank accounts, and he emptied the house and moved back to Puyallup to his dad Stephen's house. Which, if your wife is missing in a city, you're not gonna leave, right?
No.
Like, you're not just gonna leave just to be with your dad. So obviously he already knows that she's gone. After they moved back, they had like a family party, and Jennifer, Josh's sister, volunteered to wear a wire and try to get information out of him, and he wouldn't give up anything. They actually ended up getting into a fight, and Stephen, the dad, ended up calling her like some really bad names and kicking her out of the house, and he was really just trying to protect Josh.
Probably so suspicious. He's already found GPS on his car.
Yeah. Stephen really did everything he
Why
could
are you asking me that?
to protect Josh from like the media, because the media was all over them at this point. They would just like stay inside the house, turn the lights off, just try and hide, which anyone would probably do. Josh finally agreed to do a TV interview. I think it was like with ABC or something. He decided to do a TV interview. When they asked him what happened the night of the disappearance, he got really defensive. And then you can just hear Stephen in the background just kind of say like, "Hey, I think maybe I should do an interview." And he was like pushing for him to do an interview. And the interviewer was like, "I don't care to talk to you. Why would I want to talk to you? I want to talk to Josh." During that interview with Stephen, he says that him and Susan, Stephen and Susan, were in a romantic relationship, and that Susan was like in love with him and all this stuff. So everyone was obviously shocked. That interview sparked a huge investigation into Stephen. They ended up getting a warrant. They searched Stephen's house, and they found a ton of stuff. That Stephen was obsessed with Susan. Like, he was a legit stalker.
Yeah.
When Susan and Josh lived with Stephen before they moved to Utah, they found like tapes that Stephen kept of her, where he would secretly film her in the bathroom. He would take a mirror under the door and film her in the bathroom, getting in the shower. He would take like her...
Mirror? There must have been some big cracks under them doors.
Yeah, he would take her dirty underwear and record them and like narrate it. And he would put her underwear on a pillow.
How do you narrate underwear?
And pretend that it was her. He would just be talking.
Like give it a voice? Like,
no. He would just be talking and be like, and like say how in love with Susan he was.
Oh.
And that time that he hid on her, he hid the camera, so like you could hear it. And he was just like basically telling her he's in love with her, and you can hear her be like, I think I'm really uncomfortable around you. I wish you would stop doing things like that. He had his own website, and he wrote songs about her. Multiple sonsongs about her.
What was his website called?
I don't know. I couldn't even find it.
Freak bag.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they took it down. But he
I
also
hope so.
stole like tampons, like dirty tampons from the garbage and was keeping them. He had like all this stuff just in his house.
That's so gross.
Yeah. Not only that, they found on his computer, they found child porn. They also found on his camera that he was recording 2 little neighborhood girls, like his neighbors. He was recording them like in the bathtub and stuff from his house, in the window, into their window. They arrested him, obviously, for child porn, and he ended up serving 5 years. Yeah, 5 years in prison.
Ew.
So he was.
That's not enough time.
He was just a lot weirder than anybody could have even imagined. After that, since Josh was living with Stephen, Child Protective Services stepped in and took Charlie and Braden because they didn't think that it was a safe environment for them. They took Charlie and Braden and ended up moving in with Susan's parents. They were kind of like the foster parents. The kids were still like in state custody, but they were living with the grandparents. But technically they belonged to like the state. So
that's weird. They were foster parents?
Yeah. So while they were living...
At least they were with family, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. While they were living with the grandparents, the boys started to say things like about their mom, and Charlie kept saying like that Susan did go with them on that camping trip.
How old were they at this point?
This was like a year later, I think.
Okay.
So
it's like 5 and 3.
Yeah, but he stuck to this story that Susan was there, and he even like started to draw pictures of that camping trip in the car, and he drew like his mom. His dad, his brother, him, and then he said that his mom was in the trunk. He drew his mom in the trunk.
Because he's probably been thinking about it so much because that was the last time he saw his mom.
For sure. It's so sad. The police did another interview with Charlie after he started to say all these things. He told the interviewer...
He drew that.
During the second interview that he wasn't allowed to talk about Susan. He called her Susan. He didn't call her mom. He said, we're not allowed to talk about Susan. So obviously he's being coached at this point.
His dad told his kids to call their own mom by her name.
Yeah. Really sad.
And you just stole my water.
Yes, I did. Supervised visits were supposed to be originally like at the facility, but since Josh rented his own house, they allowed it to be at his house instead, but they were still supposed to be supervised. So there was still supposed to be a social worker with him at all times. The Pierce County Sheriff's Department started to look into the case, and they were also pretty sure that Josh was responsible for Susan's disappearance. And they requested more information from the West Valley Police Department in Utah. They handed over some unreleased evidence that was found on Josh's computer. The evidence that they gave the Pierce County Sheriff's Department, which is literally our police department.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. So anyways, they gave them incestual cartoon porn that they found on Josh's computer. So it was so it was like cartoon characters engaging in sexual acts with their family members.
What the hell?
Which is insane,
that
right?
He drew?
No, that he just like videos that they found on his computer that he was watching, I guess. The apple does not fall far from the tree in that family.
Rotten apple.
This raised a lot of questions on his ability to be a safe parent because it's incest that he's watching. Ew.
It's so gross.
So, at that point, they were going to force him to take a polygraph test. After Josh got that news, he kind of freaked out.
He was getting a polygraph?
Yeah. He then moved some money around in his bank because he had like 6 bank accounts. I don't know why. Who has 6 bank accounts? Criminals, right? And he took a lot of the boys' clothes and toys and just donated them to the Salvation Army. And then on...
In South Hill?
I guess.
Yeah.
I would think.
Our local Salvation Army.
And then he, on some footage at a gas station, they saw him filling several gas cans full of gas. On February 5th this is 2012 now, so during one of the scheduled visits, Susan's parents still had the kids, and they really didn't want them to go to Josh's house because they knew that he was freaked out, and they were just worried that he was going to do something. So they really, really didn't want to send them, but they had to because it was court ordered, so they literally had to. The social worker came to pick them up from the grandparents' house like she normally would, and took them over to Josh's, which was in Graham, 2 seconds away from our old house.
Yeah.
It was where he lived.
Less than a mile.
Yeah, we looked it up on Google Maps, like literally 2 seconds.
2 minute walk.
From our old house.
Walk.
Insane.
I think it was less than half a mile away.
Yeah.
Like 0.4.
So the social worker takes them to Josh's house. When they get there, the kids are walking in front of her. She said she's walking 2 steps behind them. Josh then took the kids inside and then slammed the door on the social worker's face, which was really concerning because she's supposed to be there. He can't be alone with them. So she called the cops, and the 911 operator was super unhelpful. If you listen to this phone call, it's on YouTube. You can look it up. It's so frustrating because he just doesn't take her seriously at all, and he's like just asking like these dumb questions, and it takes so long for her to even be able to tell him what's going on because he just doesn't really believe her or take her seriously.
Jeez. We'll put the links to the recording and the video too, so you can just check that out below.
So then she started to smell gasoline, and then she heard Josh through the door. She heard him say...
It must have been so much gas to be smelling it outside that quick.
Yeah. And then she obviously got freaked out, so she's telling the operator on the phone, and he just doesn't believe her. Mm-hmm. And then she heard him say, "Charlie, I have a big surprise for you." And then all of a sudden, the house just goes up in flames, and he killed them. He killed them and himself. And that is exactly what Susan's parents were afraid of. So, yeah, that's horrible. Horrible.
That's so crazy.
The worst thing I've ever heard.
I don't know how a human could want to do that to their kid. Or anything.
So obviously Josh is responsible for Susan. Obviously. They just still haven't found her body to this day. They think that she was dumped like in one of the caves in Utah. But there's so many like crevices and stuff in a cave. Like there's just no way she could be really like buried. And they just have no way of finding her. They also did an autopsy of the kids, Charlie and Brayden, and they found cracks like in the kids' skulls.
Oh God.
So he hit them over the head with a hatchet that was found in like the ashes of the house, and then lit them on fire.
So
Susan's parents ended up suing Child Protective Services, which I really don't feel like... I don't know. They shouldn't have let them go with him. They knew he was a danger. They knew he obviously killed his wife. So they sued Child Protective Services, and Susan is still missing.
Is that lawsuit still going on?
I don't know. Let's see.
That was crazy.
Yeah, and also...
It was her fault? No, it was not. But who's responsible for CPS? Like, who makes...
Washington State.
Just like the court ruling of...
Yeah, well, basically just like the state.
Allowing the supervised visits.
Yeah, even though, like...
When you listen to the call, I mean, the social worker does everything she can.
They were awarded $98 million.
Wow.
That was August 3rd of 2020. So $98 million.
Oh, wow. So finally,
Yeah.
8 years later, about whatever the exact amount is. $100 million.
That's crazy.
I'm surprised
they were
it's that
also they're also pushing to get Susan officially just like pronounced dead, because they know that she's obviously not alive, and they just want like that closure. It says on Google that she died February 5th, 2012. So maybe that's just when they
just
declared it.
her.
So yeah, super sad. Well, rest in peace to Susan, Charlie, and Braden.
It's so sad.
So sad. There's no way to make that any better for anyone.
No.
So
Those poor grandparents.
seriously. And they were so
98
against
million, I bet they don't even care about that.
They were so afraid.
I'm sure they would, in a heartbeat, give that 98 million up for
sure.
the two little boys just alone, and their daughter, of course. But that's so sad.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please let us know and like it so that we can make more. And also subscribe.
Yep.
And follow us on Instagram. We'll put our Instagrams down.
They're in the link below. You'll see it.